Voiceover. Title: A Balanced Programme. A Queer Film Festival top tip from Seán McGovern of Gays International LGBT Film Festival, Dublin. Seán, pronouns he, him, is a short, slim, white Irishman. He has grey-brown hair and a moustache. He is wearing a white collared shirt with a baseball cap. The camera is angled to the side. In the background is an institutional room with large glass windows.
The first one would be definitely a plurality of voices, and I mean lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and the spectrum of queer identities, because stories need to be told either in narrative or documentary form, and audiences want to see them. I think you should give enough credit to your audiences to have an open mind about what they want to see, but also to remember that the role of the programmer is to find and present works which are important and that you think people would enjoy seeing. The second one would be having a balanced program, and by that I mean not just in terms of the stories but also in terms of the form. I'm a big fan of short film programs, and I think every festival it's kind of like the backbone of all of them. It's what differentiates them from, you know, going to the multiplex on a Friday night, apart from the content of course. And I think time, effort, consideration, and building a really good program, because that, in many ways, the shorts programs themselves are the artistic side of film programming. Also documentaries. I have a theory that queer lives themselves are very interesting. Sometimes they're more interesting than fiction films or narrative films, and that I think finding those stories is also essential. And lastly, what I mean by a balanced program is also the languages where these films come from. You know, if you're an English-speaking film festival, you're predominantly going to have English-speaking films. North America produces the largest amount, but I think it's an easy fallback for people to think that this is, you know, where the main output comes from. We're a big believer in European voices. Latin America is a focus that Gays is getting this year because there's so many important stories that are coming out there. Eastern Europe, Asia, but one continent in particular that I think needs a lot of focus is Africa, because it's the biggest continent in the world. I think a lot of people might assume that those stories just aren't there. I think there's fewer of them, but I think it's on the part of the programming team to find those stories. And I think the last thing is probably the responsibility of the programmer to know that, especially for queer film festivals, for any film festival, but importantly for queer film festivals, it's your responsibility to think this film is important and it's a hard sell, but it's very good. We're going to make the effort to make sure that we have an audience who are seeing this, who I know by the time the lights come up they'll love it, but it might be something challenging initially. There's a film from Slovenia called Consequences that premiered at BFI Flare that we're showing in Dublin, and it's about young men in a detention centre in Slovenia, and that part of Eastern Europe is not exactly where you think these queer stories would come from. It's intense, it's challenging, but it's been the film I've been thinking about ever since I saw it.
Recorded at Organising Queer Film Festivals and Screenings, a workshop on the practical challenges in organising queer film events. Manchester Metropolitan University, 29th of June 2019. Interviewer Emily Goodyear. Filming Daniel Morell. Funders Ruckus, the Research Centre for Applied Social Sciences. Part of Queer Resource. Copyright Manchester Metropolitan University.